Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating lecture titled The Path of Life Training, originally given in Ehime Prefecture back in September 1990. And what's wild about this source material is how it outlines a highly structured, almost mathematical approach to the spiritual realm. We're talking about taking concepts that are usually treated as pure mysticism and literally applying analytical physics to them. It's a really unique framework. So, we're going to impartially break down this complex spiritual cosmology through 5 key areas. We'll start with the origins of happy science, then explore the spiritual cosmic view, move into life as soul training, discuss combating evil spirits, and finally wrap up with training for utopia. All right, part 1, Origins of Happy Science, the Catalyst. To really grasp this doctrine, we have to look at the historical starting point the speaker lays out. The text notes that everything kicked off in March 1981 with some unexpected spiritual phenomena. But the initial growth was intentionally slow. The founder was cautious, taking time to establish his own understanding first. It's described as a slow engine start. Because of these early delays in setting up an office and getting books published, the late 1980s turned into this rushed catch-up period. The speaker actually uses a great analogy here, likening it to doing all of your summer homework at the absolute very end of August. They called this catch-up phase the Sunrise Plan, which basically paved the way for the Miracle Plan in 1991. Moving right along to part 2, the spiritual cosmic view, the paradigm shift. Let's zoom out to the macro level and see how the source material illustrates the true scale of the universe to kind of shatter human arrogance. The speaker uses this incredibly vivid physical analogy. They argue that our entire three-dimensional universe, literally everything human science can observe, is just a soccer ball. If you're walking around inside that soccer ball, you could walk forever and never hit an edge, right? But it still has strict geometric limits. The spiritual realm, however, is compared to the massive Tokyo Dome Stadium. So our tiny universe is just a single ball sitting somewhere inside that enormous stadium. And get this, the speaker notes there are actually multiple domes out there. Basically, the argument here is that human science in our 3D world is essentially blind. We're just wandering around inside a dark soccer ball without even realizing these higher dimensions exist. The speaker states, "You are measuring the universe like an ant measuring with its stride in a sandbox." It's a complete paradigm shift, right? It's meant to humble the listener and completely open your mind to these vast, unseen realities that absolutely dwarf our daily physical experiences. Which brings us to part 3, life as soul training, the micro level. Zooming back in from the cosmos, this doctrine completely reframes the daily human experience. The text makes the case that living with the concrete knowledge of an afterlife allows you to live efficiently with zero regrets. According to the speaker, mature souls willingly enter infant bodies to undergo what is basically a 60 to 80-year temporary test. If you truly accept this framework, it's supposed to completely remove the fear of hardship. Instead of feeling victimized by life, you start treating your daily struggles simply as applied test problems, customized specifically for your soul's education. So the crucial takeaway is that facing these daily test problems joyfully actually accelerates your spiritual problem-solving skills. The speaker shares a personal observation here, noting that through rigorous soul training, a life problem that might have caused a whole year of anxiety a few years ago can now be resolved in just minutes. You stop wasting time worrying, you look at the test question, and you just solve the equation. Now for part 4, combating evil spirits, the obstacle. We've reached the primary conflict in this belief system, and the source material treats this spiritual affliction very analytically. The speaker makes the striking claim that roughly 70 to 75% of modern people are actively influenced by negative spirits. Only a small minority, maybe 1 in 4, have clear, active, higher-level guiding spirits. The vast majority of people are just walking around carrying an average of 2 to 3 stray or evil entities. And according to the text, these attachments are what cause heavy, negative moods, bad decisions, and a general drain on human potential. To get rid of these spirits, the text uses a brilliant cinematic analogy, comparing it to the movie Jaws. It explains that just as one harpoon won't sink a massive shark, it takes repeated strikes of spiritual truth to remove entrenched spirits. It essentially boils down to inertia. Depending on the spirit's energy and how many years it's been attached to someone, you have to just keep hitting it with the light of truth until it finally loses its grip, floats up to the surface, and surrenders. So how exactly do you deliver that light? Well, the speaker outlines a literal spiritual physics equation.
If reading a book of truth has a baseline power level of 1, listening to an audio tape is 3 times as powerful. But attending a live lecture, the speaker calculates that a live lecture has 6 times the exercising power of reading the text in a book. That live transmission of energy essentially acts as a much stronger harpoon.
To combat these attachments, the doctrine recommends a highly practical, mathematical self-assessment. The speaker says, whatever you do, do not guess your own status. Instead, sit down with 3 friends and ask for their objective opinion on whether you have negative spirits attached, and exactly how many. Which, is certainly a unique conversation starter. By averaging their estimates, say one friend says 2, another says 3, so you average 2.5, you get a baseline. From there, you map out a personalized study schedule, calculating exactly how many books and live lectures you need to consume to clear those specific attachments.
Finally, let's look at Part 5, Training for Utopia, the Grand Equation. This is where we explore the systemic solution for turning all this individual soul training into a worldwide utopian reality. The text relies on the laws of physics once again here, comparing the creation of the hell realm to the incomplete combustion of fuel. Think about it. When a fire lacks oxygen, it creates toxic carbon monoxide. In this framework, when human souls lack spiritual truth or light, they undergo incomplete combustion, which produces the toxic smoke of evil spirits and hellish environments. The systemic solution? Pump in enough oxygen, or spiritual light, to ensure souls burn clean and bright. But here is the massive logistical hurdle they face. The speaker estimates there are currently 30 to 50 billion spirits in hell. He calculates that personal one-on-one exorcism is just mathematically impossible due to the sheer volume. If it takes 1 hour to counsel and save a single spirit, there simply aren't enough hours in eternity. The movement requires a modern mass production system of salvation to keep up with the math. And that leads right into their proposed solution, highlighting the absolute importance of evangelism. Producing books, tapes, and seminars creates an automated supply chain of light. It relies on 2 pillars. Learning increases the quality of the individual, turning them into a generator of spiritual light. Meanwhile, evangelism increases the quantity, mass distributing that light out into society. It's framed not really as a typical religious conversion, but as an urgent systemic rollout of an essential spiritual utility. By mass distributing this light, you effectively reverse the negative cycle. If you remove negative attachments from living people today, those living people eventually pass on clean. This logically starves and reduces the future population of hell. With fewer spirits trapped in hell, there are fewer entities available to possess people back on Earth. It creates a continuous, mathematically sound virtuous cycle, where humanity marches steadily toward a utopian society. Driven by this competitive spiritual science, the speaker's ultimate stated goal in the text is wild: to consolidate Japan's roughly 180,000 religious groups down to just 3 or 4 highly efficient organizations. The argument is that most groups are failing to practically and systematically solve human suffering, so they should step aside for systems that actually have a clear, mathematical formula for spiritual salvation. Leaving you with a final thought from today's explainer. Consider how adopting this highly structured, analytical view of the unseen might entirely reframe modern human adversity. Whether you view this as literal theology or simply a fascinating psychological framework, treating your hardships as finite, solvable test questions could completely transform your approach to daily life. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the source material. And as always, keep questioning the world around you.